Okay, so I analyzed my younger sister running. So here's the quick slow-mo clip that I looked at. One of the first things I noticed about her one was that her left foot angle upon initial contact was greater than her right foot angle. So we'll see here, this is her right foot. So I thought she had about 5-ish degrees of a foot angle, and then her left foot right there, backing it up a little bit, had like 10, 15 degrees of a foot angle, which was also noticed when I looked at her shoes afterwards. Her left tennis shoe had more wear at the heel region than the right tennis shoe, which goes along with that little hypothesis as well. So bringing it back to initial contact, right there, her foot lands 10, 12 inches in front of the center of mass because she's overstriding. Then her knee angle is about 25 degrees flexed. Then her ankle will plantar flex, and she is a heel striker. The knee angle will increase as that tibia translate forward, and then eventually start extending upon toe off right there. So an interesting thing about her knee movement here is she does reach nearly full extension, and then through swing phase gets really into that knee flexion as her foot's really close to her butt. So that's like 125 degrees flexed, and then she brings that leg forward and then again contacts with the heel. So cueing for that, I would advise her on being more, so I think that's partially from her overstriding and then probably just having the pattern of bringing that foot all the way up. So I would advise her to land with her foot closer to her body upon initial contact to help decrease that braking force, and then also focus on not getting that foot so close to the butt there, because that's inefficient and not needed in her running pattern. So decreasing that braking force and lessening that inefficient movement would help with her running, and then also increasing cadence to lower the stress on the hip and knee as well, because her cadence was 144 steps per minute. So I think I would advise for her to aim for 155 steps per minute, just because that's a little bit more realistic, and then maybe work her way up based on what works best for her. And then looking at other parts of her running pattern, so she reaches max hip flexion there, which is expected through running. And then extension stays about the same. And then for ankle movement, so she has initial heel contact, plantar flex, and then max dorsiflexion right about there at 30, 35 degrees dorsiflexed, which is more than walking, just because I think the body's moving faster more and her heel doesn't come up quite yet, right about there. And then max plantar flexion at toe off, which is 30-ish degrees plantar flex, which is again more than walking, as walking doesn't need as much propulsion there. So then just noticing her overall running pattern, I didn't notice anything too crazy with vertical displacement, as you notice down and then up. Yep, so that seemed pretty normal to me. Probably could lessen it some amount, but nothing too crazy. And then another thing I noticed was she had a really loud run, so I would advise her on focusing on being quieter when her foot hits the ground. And some cues that might help for a quieter run would be, instead of hitting such a strong heel contact, maybe aiming more towards that mid-foot contact. And then maybe forefoot if that works best for her, but I'm thinking mid-foot might be more realistic based on how she's running right now. And then she does run with a slight forward lean. Here, I'll play this again. So pretty slight. Probably could increase that lean more to be more efficient. And then something that I noticed that was interesting was when she pushes off on toe off, she brings that right arm, since she's pushing up with her right leg, she brings that right arm and really compacts that in, so brings it up forward, which I think helps with that momentum. And you might be better to see so when she's pushing up with the left arm, or the left foot, her left arm is really close there. So I think that's helping her with her propulsion. So I'm thinking to help with propulsion instead of needing this big knee extension and all this other movement would be increasing her or strengthening her hip extensors, her hamstring, her gastroc, her soleus to help with that movement as well. And maybe also, in addition to these other cues, can help with a more efficient push off and running pattern. And then for other deviations and strengthening, I thought strengthening tibialis anterior, especially eccentrically, can help with her plantar flexion control, as I think it's pretty abrupt there. So that can reduce injury risk, like tendinopathies or such. And then also, just also knowing my sister, strengthening quads and core can help her have a more controlled running pattern and reduce risk of injury, since my sister isn't a big runner or a big strength training girl. So all of that would be really helpful too. But especially focusing on glutes, hamstrings, gastroc, soleus for that hip extension and propulsion, and then eccentric tibialis anterior strengthening too would be my best recommendations.